Hello, good evening, everybody. Good evening. I hope everybody's doing okay. I decided to come on here and do a um, spontaneous live. I'm on my way home driving from where I was to say I was out working that today. So I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about Um, first of all, I hope everybody is doing okay. I hope everybody had a good weekend. I don't know who was impacted by the snow or who wasn't, but what I could say is here we did not get no any snow. So they had hyped up. Well, let me rephrase that. We got precipitation, and it was in the form of snow, but we didn't get any accumulation here. And it was predicted that we were supposed to get some, and it was supposed to be all this stuff. But I knew like days before it wasn't going to be anything that was going to stick to the ground because it was projected that the temperature was going to be too warm, and I was like, that's not going to stick. So, but then I was thinking maybe overnight it might stick a little bit and cause conditions to be like a little icy because the temperature was due to drop some, but it still didn't even do that. It still did not even do that out here in Maryland. In my opinion, I think Maryland is one of those places that is really, really, really symbolic of the fact that global warming is real. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times here in Maryland, we wouldn't have as severe weather as it would be in New Jersey, New York, but similar. So if they had, the conditions they had 10 inches, 12 inches, a foot, 2 feet of snow, then we were going to have, if they had a foot, we were going to have a half. It was going to be something. But we have had situations here in Maryland where we have had seasons where we've had absolutely no snow, and they are still getting it up north. They're still getting it all around us: Delaware, New Jersey, New York, PA, all around with Maryland, the area surrounding. They are still getting that accumulation. It's not as much, but they're getting it. But here in Maryland, we are not getting that like that. I mean, a lot of people, especially people who maybe just came to Maryland like within the last 10 to 15 years, they thought that last snow that we had was like amazing. I'm like, that was not nothing. It was what happened was is that they badly orchestrated the cleanup. And I think they underestimated, they probably thought we weren't gonna get what we got. And then it got so cold afterwards it was like rock, ice. It was rock hard, and so they did not do cleanup well. And Baltimore and Maryland in general, it's in years past, like when I was younger, they were good about cleanup, but this cleanup was just terrible. So, but I hope if you guys know wherever you're at, I hope you're safe. I hope you have enough food. I hope they are on the road to getting you guys back on the road. And I know that my cousins and some of my people in North Carolina, like they got hit, and they not used to that. What they got now, that's unusual. That's another sign of global warming. So I tell people I believe in the science when it comes to that, and whether or not the science is a result of something man did, or the science is just what happens over time as life changes. Either way, I believe that that's what is happening. We are having this issue. So, like I said, I hope everybody's safe. I hope everybody can get back on the road. I hope those who wanted a snow day, I hope you all enjoyed the snow days, and all of that stuff. Okay. So, on my thumbnail, I have a picture of a marriage license. And the reason I have a picture of a marriage license on my thumbnail is because I'm tired of hearing about this goddamn Aaliyah marriage license. I'm tired of it. So we hear all kinds of stuff surrounding this damn marriage license. Oh, Kels didn't do nothing to get the thing. Demetrius said he did this and this. But at the end of the day, they leave out the fact that it was still something that was in the benefit, behalf, and behest, as Miss Angie Walker, has taught us out here, of Robert Kelly. It was to either, even if he in some kind of way, it directly or indirectly was to his benefit benefit behalf. So even if it wasn't his idea to come up with the plan of marrying her, well, how did he end up in front of this preacher doing this? Right? Like, so I'm more inclined to believe that he the one who gave the marching orders on telling people what to do. And I do think that maybe the course did a poor job of proving that, and then that might be why the outcome was what it was. But when I look at the circumstantial evidence surrounding it, it's highly likely to me he had something to do with it. And so I just want to talk about that for a minute, and then I also want to talk about Blueface, y'all. I'm on here to talk about Blueface too, but because that's another insane scenario that you don't want to watch and you get caught up watching. It's just a damn mess. But um, but I want to talk about that. So this one right here is something that I just recently hearing, and I've heard it said across several platforms, and they are questioning the fact of a marriage license being able to be obtained. They're not referring it to this. I'm going to refer to this in its proper term so that I can debunk this thing, right? They are questioning anyone who will believe that a marriage license was able to be obtained with a county ID, a county or a city ID. That's the question. So now, what the narrative that is being spun, or I don't know, maybe they've been trying to spin this narrative. I don't know, but I think with all this is the last leg of the narrative. I think this is all they got left. So this is the thing they holding on to, because I think over time, that's what we're finding out. Over time, I think that these narratives that are being and justifications that are being given for this type of behavior, like they once you start to dismantle and unravel the rationale behind it, then they find one that they can hold on to and then try to stick and hold on to that for dear life, right? Just squeeze the oxygen out of the shit, right? So the question, now, I guess, the narrative is that she couldn't obtain a marriage license with a county or city issued ID. That is absolutely false. And this is coming from someone who obtained her marriage license using a county ID. I used my county ID when I went to go get my marriage license in Ocean County, New Jersey. And I am purposefully telling this, saying this. I don't give a damn that I'm saying it. I'm doing it on purpose. In Ocean County, New Jersey, I used my Ocean County, New Jersey, I did county issued identification to go and pick up my marriage license. I did. Okay? It can be done. These rules, especially at this time, there is a period of time where there was not money, resources, or abilities in one period of our history here in America where you could get in. First of all, I don't even know where black people are. It was hard for black people to get an identification. You got a purchase certificate. You ain't even have a damn birth certificate. So then when people had to go and try to get records of being alive, some of these people, like my grandmother, she didn't even have a damn birth certificate. I mean, I'm sorry, not my grandmother, my great grandmother, my great grandfather, they did not have any birth certificate. That is why my great grandmother was always lying about how old she was, talking about she was the same age as my grandfather that was her son. So the idea that we always had such this complex identification system is absurd. The other thing that makes this idea absurd is when it comes to voting. It is one of the reasons why they wanted restrictions on identification to be lifted when it came to voting, because black people were being disenfranchised when it came to voting because they were not able to illegally obtain the right types of identification. So identification, it has a really taboo relationship with this country, right? So it was not always so complex that you go to your motor vehicles administration and you get a real ID and they scan your ID and automatically they know everything about you. And no, there were people who only had a county or city issued identification. And one of the things which is consistent with some of the the dialogue that I'm hearing surrounding this. And if you don't believe me, I always encourage people to do the research. Don't believe what I say, do the research. Do the research to find out, right? One of the things that you also, in addition to a marriage license that you were able to obtain in some states and in some localities with a county or city identification, was food stamps or any type of social service benefit. And the reason why a lot of people, especially people of color, only held a county or city identification was because they went to go get those services. They deemed that those were sufficient. The check the requirements in order to get that type of identification to obtain those services were a little bit more relaxed and not as stringent. And so it required them to present some documentation to prove that they are who they say they are, but they weren't as strict as it was possibly to go get a state ID or something of that magnitude. So yes, you could, which so makes sense. And people are stating that there was once a food stamp application that was filled out by Aaliyah. Well, then it would make perfect sense. That falls in line with the narrative that is out here. If the excuse of her obtaining this identification was so that she could get food stamps, right? That is a reason to go get a county issue ID. Oh shoot, I hope I didn't. Can you guys hear me still? I don't know if anybody's in here. Oh shoot. Can you guys hear me? Hopefully you guys can still hello? I hope you guys can still hear me. But that is that is a reason to that is something else. Social any type of social service services you can obtain with a county. You could back then obtain with a county or city issued ID. Now I don't know what the requirement is now. I don't know what people are required or can what type of identification it can and cannot show. But I do know that that is the case. And even just recently, like so when it comes to travel, right? Um, there was I went on a cruise to the Bahamas with a county issued ID before when I was a teenager, right? Like so, back during that time, which I am close in age to the person that is being discussed regarding this matter, um, that county or city issued ID was able to do a lot. It was able to do a lot, and so hearing the story about something about a food stamp application, I don't know how true or untrue that is, but yes, that would be a reason to go to get a county ID. So it's possible that when this ID was to be went to go be obtained, that was the reason given, I guess, for trying to get this type of identification because they needed to apply for some type of services, government assistance or something like that, and they needed an identification in order to do it. That could have been the reason. That could have been was documented. And if the social service because every from what I understand in the various states and local localities, you go to a different place in order to obtain these county or city issued IDs. So I know where in New Jersey where I went to, it was the municipal building. But it's very well possible that social services may have been the one issuing those IDs at that time. And so that's why she would need to go there. And that she would need a reason for why she was trying to get that type of ID. And so getting some type of social assistance, social service assistance, if that was what she needed in order to get that kind of ID, that would be the reason it would be documented. So that sounds consistent. This is what I mean when I say, and say, read all the source material. Listen to everybody, what everybody got to say. No matter what side you on, whether you for or against, you can defend whichever side better if you listen to all sides, because then you can find things that just are either consistent or inconsistent. It's just that's just I. Hopefully you guys can hear me. So I wanted to come on and say that because when I heard that, I was like, oh, it's easy for me to dispel this idea because I did it. And honestly, I might be able to go back to the township because if I'm not, um I went to the Ocean County Township to that municipal building. That's where I got my we got the marriage license from because I got married in Old Bridge, New Jersey. So and I'm giving out all of this so that it's no so that you can do your own research. You can go back and do your own research and confirm that what I'm saying is the truth. That's why I'm telling all of this, right? Um, I don't care nothing about that because I would rather that people deal in honesty, and if they are questioning whatever anybody is saying, provide the proof. I think I should be able to go back and get the documentation, and I'm not sure if it shows what type of identification that I use on the application. I don't know if I can get a copy of the application or not. However, um, I can look into whether or not I could get a copy of the application, and if so, if it says what type of identification I used in order to get that. But yeah, I used a county ID, and the only reason why I used my county ID that day was for this reason. So because I left my identification, right, and we waited to the last minute to go get the marriage license, and when I, we went close to the end of the day. And if we tried to go back to our house, we wouldn't have made it to get it. And our wedding was that weekend. So I had my county ID on me, and so the clerk was like, "This is fine. You can use this." So yes, there are places, whether it might not be across the whole state, I'm not sure, or whatever. It might just be certain localities, and certain states have these rules, but a county or city able to be used to obtain a marriage license at some point. I don't know if it's still able to be done or if at some point it stopped. But in that era, because I got married a couple years, maybe 5 years, wait a minute, 5 to 6 years after her, after this happened. Yeah, it is very well possible that she could. So for people to believe or want people to believe that they shouldn't believe because of the type of identification, I am letting you know that is not true. A county or city issued ID is able to be used in some places in order to obtain a marriage license. Another thing that is consistent with the story is if there was a mention of a food stamp application being applied for, if they had to go to the Department of Social Services in order to get this county or city issued ID, then that might have been the reason documented for it being issued. Because typically they do ask, why are you having this being issued? I remember that being part of the question when I got a county ID. And the reason that when I went to go get the county ID was because I had moved. I had moved from Baltimore to New Jersey. So when I first went, so I didn't turn in my driver's license initially when I moved. So I wanted to have some identification that had my address on it for purposes of like my children, because my at the time I only had my daughter and my son. And like different things I needed them to be for address verification. So that county ID was able to do an address verification at that time. I didn't want to get rid of my Maryland driver's license at that point. I did eventually get rid of it, but I did not initially when I got that county ID. So that county ID was sitting in my wallet. I left my driver's license and I use that county ID in order to get my marriage license. So yes, that is definitely something that can be done. So I wanted to come on here for that, and like I said, I'm interested in other people doing their research genuinely, not no shady, uh, disingenuous, purposely twisted up, misconstrued shit, but doing a genuine look into whether or not that was able to be done. And I'm sure that you will find the same thing consistent with what I'm saying my experience was. That was my experience. So it's not just that I know it because I looked into it to see if in other places it could be done. After I heard this being said, I have a lived experience of having done it. So I wanted to say that. So I'm gonna move on from that situation because there's so much that could be said when it comes to that situation, and I want to talk about this thing with this damn Blueface, right? Now, I think the whole situation is just crazy. I think all the players, everything involved in the situation is crazy shit. Ain't none of them no better than the other one. None of them. None of the people in this saga is better than the other one. They all are doing things that just don't make any damn sense, and a lot of them are being misled by the people, the more mature people in their life, to continue on the path of just doing destruction and not getting the best sound advice. It's just a fucking mess. It's a terrible mess, right? But I had saw a live because I'm where Blueface's mother Carlissa was did a live, and somebody must have asked her about the baby, and so a Krishan's baby. Now, so we know Blueface has two children with Jade and Alexis. I think she's claiming she's pregnant again. I don't know if she's trolling with that or if it's true or not, but she said it a couple of times, so I'm inclined to believe that it's the truth. So she's supposedly pregnant, and then this new girl that he started dating, Nevaeh, she's supposedly pregnant by him now. And he got all of these other girls that's coming in, and he tries them out. They come there, they cook for him, and he's on camera smacking and doing mukbang and all of this ridiculous ass shit he do. So but when on Carlissa's live recently, I guess because okay, Nevaeh, the new girl, he went and bought her a car and she crashed the car. Now, just a few months back, Jade and Alexis had a car with the G Wagon. I had a crash with the G Wagon with the kids in it. So I guess this is something that the fans started to talk about. Ended up seeing this on Instagram. So the fans were talking about it. So Carlissa, I guess Carlissa was live. Carlissa is Blueface's mom, and they mentioned it inside of her chat. And so she asked the question to the person in the chat asked her, like, what is your son doing? Like, why is he not having any interaction with his son? Why isn't he seeing his son? Why isn't he doing something to try to create a relationship with his son? And so Carlissa made this excuse saying, well, he what do you do when the mother is on the run? I guess saying Krishan is on the run with the baby, and so what is he supposed to do? So that she poses that question first. So then the person suggested take her to court. So she responds back and says, "You so stupid. He can't take her to court. He's not on the birth certificate. Like, you can't. What is he supposed to go into court and say, Your Honor, I'm not on the birth certificate, but I want to see this child?" Like, and she's saying it like serious with a straight face, right? And this ignorance just really gotta stop, because I think it's willful ignorance, and it's the same thing that I say. Like, when I hear some of these people, this is why I wanted to bring it up, and this is the point I'm making. When I hear some of these people provide some of the excuses and justifications and lies, like straight out blatant lies that they do in this R. Kelly situation, some of them I don't believe that they really believe that. And maybe I don't believe that they really believe that because I'm looking at the better in humanity, right? The greater good in humanity. That part that it's always got to be some good somewhere, right? Hey, grown old boy, what's up? What's up? There is always some good somewhere, right? And some of these people, I see some of the things that they say, like about surrounding other topics, and then when I hear them talk about this topic that display some of the same type of behavior patterns, they take a whole different position. And it just leads me to believe these people really do not believe this. For whatever reason, they are still holding on to this narrative, but I don't think they really believe this. And I don't want to sit and say, make any judgment on anybody's raising or nothing like that, because that ain't for me to do. I don't think anybody has had perfect parents and been raised perfectly. All types of things going on. I know lots of what they had to do. You know, lots of people have to have two income households. They don't have the luxury, and so they do what they need to do in order to do what they at the time think they're doing to provide a better life for their children. And that sometimes like leaves the children unattended, and children go and do things that, you know, and teenagers go and do mischievous things. And so I know that to that, but I want to know, like, this, sometimes when people are saying things, I'm like, you cannot be for real. So when Carlissa is sitting up there and she's giving this excuse for why Blueface cannot get access to his child with Krishan Rock, I'm like, this is a crock of shit. It's a crock of shit because, number one, a paternity test has already been done. There has already been a paternity test. Now, I know, listen, some of the people over there is just like some of these people over here. It is so many conspiracy theories behind everything. Everything is a conspiracy. Oh, Blueface not really the daddy. He just saying that. Oh, they helped to kill the real daddy. All this, it's all these conspiracies going on over in that sector. It's a mess. But um, Blueface self admits he admits that he was skeptical. What he did question whether that was his child, but recently he's been confirming that that is his child. That the paternity test what it says that it was his child. That he accepts the paternity test for being factual. But you cannot tell that to these Blueface fans who still want to give him an out and excuse for what he is not doing. And so then it does not help that his mother is doing the same thing and comes up with these nonsensical justifications and excuses. And so I'm in like a little chat group over there where people say I don't comment much over there, but when I saw this live, I was like, I gotta say something. So I made a comment to say, like, this is some bullshit, and this is why we see some of the shit raised out here that we see. Because you have mamas like this making these type of excuses instead of going to go, if she doesn't really know, if she doesn't really know what he can do, then it's ways to find out what he can do. They got lawyers. This man have been in all kind of legal trouble, all types of stuff for everything else. This is your child. And the thing that I think bothers me is that some of these people will be more inclined to go back and seek penance for somebody who stole a car from them. But when it comes to their child, they don't take that same level of aggression legally in order to get the rights that they deserve, and it makes me believe they don't want to. They don't want to do it. It ain't got nothing to do with all of this excuses being made up. But I made a comment in this group basically saying, you know, like, this is a crock of shit. All he has to do is go to the court to get a court, because there is a process. Like with everything else, there is a process. So there's steps to it. So yes, he has a paternity test that was done by Zeus Network that he believes to be true. And but um he would have to have a court issue paternity test, because since he's not on the birth certificate, so I don't know, I guess depending on which state he might be in or whatever, maybe they would accept that paternity test from that agency that he had it from with Zeus. But if not, they might order another paternity test to be done. But what he would need to do is go to the court. He will need to request visitation or request joint custody or whatever it is that he's seeking, and then he would need to describe to the court that he is not listed on the paternity test. I mean, listed on the birth certificate, that he would like to establish paternity so that he can have rights to visitation, to partial custody or sole custody, whatever he's seeking, and that then he wants that so that his name can be placed on the birth certificate. Because I don't know, understand why and what it is that are making people believe that the law does not provide a remedy for people when this type of situation happens. That the law is not going to leave this shit sitting out there and say, oh, she ain't put you on a birth certificate, so now you can't see your child, you can't have visitation with your child. The law is duty bound to make a legal remedy for this man to go and seek the rights that belong to him. So the first step is petitioning the court for what he is asking for, with the assumption that he's the father. Then in the process of doing that petition, he is also going to petition to confirm that he is the father based on whatever the standard of the court is. So if the court is willing to accept that Zeus network paternity test, that would establish the paternity. If not, they would orchestrate that to happen, and then they would establish paternity that way. And a court is not going to deny him visitation or partial custody or anything of that nature to this child just solely based on the fact that she doesn't want him to have anything to do with the child and she doesn't want him around the child. There would have to be something shown to demonstrate why he is not entitled to the rights that he has as a parent, right? So my comment, my statement was about that. So here come the trolls and the idiots. There are people on there who would agree. They understood what I said. They could comprehend. And the reason why I'm calling them trolls and I'm calling them idiots is because of how they came into the chat about the comments that were made surrounding my comment. So they started calling names first. And basically saying people is dumb and they don't know why these dumbass women come on here and say this, knowing that he got a baby mama who is evil and this and this and that. And I'm trying to figure out where in my comment did I ever defend Krishan Rock's actions. I never defended her actions. I stated what he needed to do to get the proper relief as a parent, to get what is entitled to him as a parent, to give his child what his child deserves from him being his parent. In no way do I think that she's right in keeping the child away. In no way do I think that she's right that she did not make provision for this person's name to be listed on the birth certificate. But at the same time, in the state of Maryland, and I know it might vary different places, the father has to be present to sign the birth certificate. A woman can no longer just sign a name on a birth certificate, and this is the law a lot of places. I think it's still based on the state law. I don't think that the federal government has really made a determination on this yet. I think this is still something that the local governments legislate over, but I think that most of the state governments are consistent with this. The woman can no longer just write somebody's name on a birth certificate. The father and the intended father, the expected father, has to come and show identification to be on the birth certificate. So, Blueface not being on Krishan's baby's birth certificate is not solely Krishan's fault either. Blueface, all he needed to do was show up at the hospital and show identification to be listed on the birth certificate. And if she refused to document his name on the birth certificate when he showed up, he still has a legal remedy through paternity test to be listed on the birth certificate. There is no local, state, or national law that is going to prevent a child from having their father listed on a birth certificate. They will provide legal remedies for that to be done, even if you have a bitter parent, a bitter mama, a bitter baby mama who don't want to do it. And that's I don't understand, like, when people make these excuses. In order for them to justify the person they like, the person that they prefer, they will jump through all of these hula hoops to justify behavior that they know is not justified. And the reason why they go through all of these hurdles and hula hoops is because they know with any stranger, they wouldn't justify none of those actions, but they justify them based on their either admiration, their proximity, or their adoration for who the person is in the situation. But if they don't have any of those things, they normally are able to give more of an unbiased decision. And a lot of times that unbiased decision contradicts the stuff that they decide on when it comes to people that they have proximity to, that they have adoration for, that they have some kind of affection for. It's different. And so I was trying to figure out, like, when I made the comment, like, What is it that you didn't comprehend when I'm saying what he needs to do to get what he needs? I'm not talking about Krishan. I'm not even really concerned about him. I'm concerned about the baby having what the baby is due from both of its parents. Right? That's my standing in the situation. But to make claims that my comment was to imply that Krishan is an angel and a saint and hasn't done nothing wrong. And why would I suggest that he need to do? I'm suggesting that he needs to do that because that's his responsibility. You fucking idiot! Like how stupid do you have to be? That when you can, one person cannot control the other. He cannot control what Krishan does, but what he does have control over is half of that baby. That like the reason, and this is the excuse that I see so many people, non-custodial parents, use for why they are not doing the right things when it comes to the care of their children. They use the excuse that the other parent is doing something to get in the way of that. And yes, I know that that can be the case. But guess what? The same aggressiveness that you would use if somebody came and stole your car from out of the front of your house should be the same aggressiveness that you use when it comes to your damn child. Like I don't understand that. And I don't understand why everybody is trying to like give this nigga a pass because of her behavior. Her behavior is not right. It's deplorable. You have some of her supporters who believe that she's justified in why she keeps the child from him. And I don't agree with all of how I see, that Blueface has referred to the child sometimes in the public, how his mom has done it. What I do think that I have seen Blueface do that I can kind of give him credit, he kind of has asked Carlissa, his mom, to stop some of the stuff that she do because a lot of the stuff is generated by her and what she say out her mouth. A lot of it is. And I think a lot of the issue, Blueface got his own whole side of issues, but I think a lot of his issues surrounding with Krishan got to do with the fact that he sees a lot of his mother and Krishan as alike. And so, just like when he don't want to be bothered with his mother, he doesn't want to be bothered with Krishan. But if that was my son, my advice to him is going to be to do what he needs to do. Like, okay, I can say, for example, right? So my son just got out of prison, out of federal prison, and he has a son. And so the girl had to end up taking him for child support because she gets housing, right? And so I don't have nothing negative to say about that. Like everybody has to do what they got to do. You got some mothers, they gonna down whatever somebody. I'm a mother. I'm never gonna down what another mother got needs to do in order to take care of their child. So I had to make my son aware. Well, this is what the situation you put yourself in. This is what she was left to have to figure out, and she figured it out the best way that she know how. And so, if that means that then she had to, tell these people this to place you on child support, then that's what it is. Now, this is how you handle this so that you don't end up getting yourself in a situation where you owe arrears, where child support got to come find you, and all of this stuff. So, I gave my son advice on what he needed to do to communicate with the child support office to make sure that he was paying properly, what they calculated he needs to pay properly, and that he stays on track so that he doesn't find himself in a bad predicament. When my son got upset about it, I did not demonize a system that is meant for men to take care of their children in the event that they might not have all the resources. Because the reality is that every man that is on child support is not on child support necessarily because they can't because they are providing something or they all wouldn't be willing to provide something. But some of these men are on child support or the non-custodial parent, let me say it like that, because the government is providing resources to the child that neither parent really can afford. And the reason I say that is because if the mother could afford it, then she would be using some other resource to get those resources for the child. The father probably can't afford those resources on his own either, or he probably will opt to pay that rather than the child support. And oftentimes, the child support is way lower than the resources that they are receiving for the child, the services that they're receiving. So it's like, okay, you're essentially paying back some money for services that your child is receiving, essentially, but it's at a discounted rate. And I know in some of these people mind, they think that oh, it's all of this money and I gotta pay all of this money. But if you had to provide all of these services for the child, you probably would not be able to provide based on what the services that they are receiving, right? And that's in a lot of these cases. So that's how a lot of them end up on child support. It's not necessarily that the mama wanted to take them there or not, but neither parent is in a position to provide the proper services and proper things that is needed to care for the child. Like if you're receiving Medicaid, a lot of people can't pay for medical insurance in this country, and when especially with all of this stuff going topsy turvy, you can't pay. It's people who have substantial savings who are saying, I cannot. I'm not going to be able to afford my insurance premiums. And they don't have any recourse because they fall outside of the income bracket to receive Medicaid. So imagine two individuals who are just making enough to purchase food, to put a shelter over the child. They can't also provide medical care for the child, so they rely on Medicaid to do that. There are some states that say, okay, then the parents have to be responsible for contributing to that. And oftentimes they will lay it to the non-custodial parent because the custodial parent does bear the brunt of the expenses for the child in most cases and situations. That's why they do that inventory on income and where the money is going, because when the child is living with the parent, that parent is contributing way more resources a lot of times than the non-custodial parent. Now, I'm not saying, I know there are situations and instances where that is a reverse, right? But in those cases, guess what? The child probably really don't need those services from the state. So it's no evening out. So I'm specifically talking to when services from the state are needed to care for the child. Sometimes what that child support is kind of like you providing some type of subsidy for the state to take on your responsibility in that area, but you're not being charged the full amount. That's what it is. And so when my son, like I said, when he came home, we had the conversation. I sat him down. I let him know how I felt about it. I let him know that he's not going to have. My son knows this about me anyway. He knows it. So he wasn't attempting. He really was coming to me to find out, mommy, what do I do next? He was upset about it, because my son is willing to take care of his child. He has him with him half of the time now, all of this stuff. So it's not that, but he doesn't know how to navigate the system. Like I said, he got incarcerated. His son was born while he was incarcerated, and so he's a new parent. He doesn't know how to navigate this. So he was really coming to me for advice on what's the best thing to do. And I'm glad that he did that because I was able to tell him, listen, contact social services, find out, child support, find out who is the caseworker, let the caseworker know this is the type of work you're doing right now, give them your income information for that. They will set you a payment that is in line with that. Then that way you are staying on track with everything. And everything is good with them. It's no beef. But it's no beef because I have enough sense as a mom to know that I'm a mother of girls and boys, and to know that children need to be cared for. And I want to make sure that my grandkids receive the best care possible. And if that means that it's going to negatively impact one of my kids for my grandkids to receive it, then oh well. Because that's the responsibility that they took on. And so when I talk to them, I'm going to advise them from that place. I'm not going to advise them from a place of where I'm going to be biased because that's my child and I'm going to say a whole bunch of shit that I know I don't believe in and I know that I don't know to be real and true and that I wouldn't go along with if it was any other person. Like I'm just not gonna do that. And I think that sometimes that's what is happening out here. That's what is happening. Like I think that some individuals have a core ethic that falls in line with what a lot of us think about certain behaviors and situations. And I think that given that these scenarios are presented to them that and it involves perfect strangers or a fictional character, I think they can see it. But when it presents itself with someone who they have proximity to, who they are in relationship with, who they have admiration for, who they admire, who they look at as a hero, it's hard for them to reconcile those behaviors with what they think about the person. And so then they just start making up all of this silliness because that silliness is the only way. And this is just my opinion. Those silly excuses and justifications is their only way that they can reconcile within their core and their ethos that what is happening is right. They know if they would concede to certain things, they would have to call it out. And so in order and a lot of people look at silence when they see certain behaviors. A lot of people think loyalty is being silent when you're close to someone and you see them exhibiting certain type of behaviors. And I'm unloyal if I speak out against it and I say that it's wrong. And so because when you have those two things coupled together, I think that's how we get here with this. Like I said, I'm seeing it in that sector as I look at the situation with Blueface on both sides. On Krishan's side, on Blueface side, Jaden Alexis side, or you see, and then you see the adults, the mature adults in their life, and their responses to all of what's going on, and you really get to see like what is going on. And the reason I say that is this because Carlissa, Blueface's mother, she has moments of clarity, but those moments of clarity only come when she feels like Blueface is talking shit on her. When she feels like Blueface is talking shit on her, she talks sense on him. But then when he does to these women what he does to her, this is when she comes up with this type of crazy stuff right here. And so, like I said, I can't figure out whether that little I got what did she I guess it's called going live on Instagram too. I don't know. But she was on Instagram, she did her story on her Instagram story. She that little thing she did, I can't figure out whether or not she's being serious and she really doesn't know that it's something that her child can do, or if she's just saying that excuse because she knows that he has no intentions on doing anything to get parenting time with their child. And so it's easier for her just to make that excuse to try to just, you know, throw it off to the side than to really deal with what could be done to get him access to his son. Like I can't figure out which one it is. But like I said, I fall into this same bucket when I look across sectors and the people's different opinions and I see it. Like I said, I pay attention to people. I pay attention to their behaviors. A lot of the people that I see say certain things that make me cringe or certain things that I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so disappointed to hear them say that like that because I have such more of a high regard for that person. I don't really think they believe it. I don't. And maybe that's my way of reconciling so that I don't have to deal with the fact that maybe they really do believe it. I don't know. But it's just that I see manifest in so many other areas presented in so many other situations where they are able to distinguish between the behaviors. And that's why I'm thinking it is something jaded about these particular people involved in the scenario that is keeping them from admitting and accepting that it is what it is. And and then, like I said, it makes me question whether they really believe the shit or not. I know a lot of people go with the thing they believe it, and this is they just bad people, and I understand why some people think that. I think that's not the place that I'm at. I really think that there's a lot of contradicting based on other presentations and other scenarios that I see these people talk about. And I really believe they don't believe this shit. Not really at their core. That they are jaded by the person that they are advocating for some reason. And this is why they are jumping through all of these hurdles because they have to find a way within inside of themselves to reconcile the wrongdoing against their own morals and their own core and their own beliefs. They're real true ones. Like, that's just my opinion. That's how I see it. And I think today when I made the statement in the group, and that was my first time commenting in that Blueface group, because I never really comment in Blueface groups either, that Krishan and Blueface groups. A lot of these groups I don't comment in because I see the same types of behavior. I don't think the behaviors over here in the R. Kelly sector are unique to the R. Kelly sector. This is the same behavior across a lot of sectors. And I see that behavior, so I refrain. I most of the time just watch it for the content, watch it to hear it, and to some of my other people in real life, we have discussions about some of the stuff, and that's really why I really pay attention to some of it. But today, when I heard Carlissa say that, I'm like, come on now, come on, because like I said, just recently I heard Carlissa talking some good sense when it came to some stuff that Blueface was doing, and so I'm like, now I know we not reverting back to this now, because now since you're not his target, and now one of these girls is his target, now you back on the side of him and making the excuse for him. Come on, that's not loyalty. Loyalty is telling people that you love the truth. That's being loyal to them. Anybody that you, anybody who expects you to lie to them, and they look at that as a display of loyalty, they don't respect you. They don't respect you. They don't. They not loyal to you because they would never ask you to do that and to compromise yourself in that way for them. And so, I just like I said, I think I'm coming to the consensus that I think for whatever reason, people are jaded by the relationships and the proximity and the status of individuals, and this impacts their core and makes them do all of these moral hula hoops in order to try to reconcile their morals within themselves that they know they would not be able to accept if they really looked at it on its face. Like, I don't know. But I wanted to come to you guys and talk to you guys about that because I had a long ride and it was on my mind and I was thinking about it. And I was thinking about how it crossed over into so many areas of interaction and social interaction on the internet, and how you see people play out their own morals and beliefs about things. And some of the things that you can notice in their presentation, they can kind of give you some kind of indication that they don't really believe what they're saying. And that's my whole point. Like, observation will tell on people every time. If I observe that you are able to analyze this when it comes to every other situation, and you have the right application in every other situation, but in this one situation you have such a skewed view of the same or similar behavior, then I know that you're only doing this for some alternative reason. It's not because that's what you believe. It's not because that's who you are. It is because for some reason you have to reconcile that in order for you to maintain whatever it is that you think about the person that you have admiration for, that you have proximity to, that you have relationship with. And that's just the bottom line. It's just like in Rashona's book when she says that she never really thought he was doing this stuff to other people. She only thought he was doing it to her. Well, I honestly believe in her mind that's what she told herself in order for her to reconcile it so that she could continue on with keeping the secret for him by telling herself that. But it is evident and clear he was doing it to other people because there were even other people of similar age that were involved with him in the presence of her, with her. So I just think that that's the way as human beings we have of rationalizing things when it comes to people that we love in our life, and how we look at their wrongdoing versus how we look at the wrongdoing of a complete stranger or a fictional character. We're able to see that behavior in those patterns, but when it comes to the people that we love and that we admire, we become blind oftentimes. Not everyone, and not in every scenario, but we do put some degree of blinders on and try to find some excuses for the behavior that we don't so easily give to someone that we don't know. We don't give that same grace to a person we don't know. And we don't give that same grace to the person that we don't like in a scenario. And we don't give that same grace even when we're reviewing literature. You know, I remember when I used to sit in class, you know, at different levels of my education, and we would review literature and talk about literature, and there were things that people couldn't identify in the characters, how they would demonize certain characters, and I was always able to find, but I know the reason I was able to do that is because my grandmother was just such a great English professor, and so she trained me to think like that. But I was always able to find some silver lining that required me to want to do more research into the story to find out how did this character get here. You know, some people, they don't care about character development, they just care about the behaviors and the acts of the individual, but I had to go more in depth than that. And so you see that, even like I said, academically you can see when people are able to make assessments on human behavior. You see it when it's people that they don't have proximity to, and they're able to make those moral judgments and come up with what they think is rational. But then as soon as it involves somebody who they looked up to, who they're involved with, you know, who they care for, then those blinders go on. And this is the thing that you compete against. That's the thing I think that we compete against. It's not the overall core moral or belief. We're competing against the relationship, or or how that person relates to the individuals in the scenario, in the situation. That's what we compete against. And that's, like I said, I think that's just my opinion. I wanted to get on here and say that to y'all. I hope y'all have a good evening. I wanted to come talk to y'all too about the State of the Union. I'm gonna do that. But there's a couple of things I wanted to check into before I talk about that State of the Union, because I kind of was listening to it as I was doing something else, and so I want to make sure that what I saw, like factual things and then discrepancies, I wanted to make sure that I was um, speaking about them accurately. Now, okay, I'm gonna tell y'all one thing. I think this is the best thing that came out of the State of the Union, but I also think that there's something contradictory about it, and that's the thing I want to research into. So, Donald Trump getting rid of that electric car mandate, right? Now, I'm not going to say that it is 100% a good thing, because we know that gas powered vehicles do do contribute to pollution and things of that nature. But the timetable in which the Biden administration was trying to get it changed over to this 50% thing, I think it was too ambitious. Um, so, and I also think that there was not a lot of care taken into um, I think there wasn't a lot of care or thought into how this might impact certain people individually with that piece of legislation from the Biden administration, because like different people do different things, right? And so my daughter, she does some security on in DC, right? Somewhere on a site, right? But for extra money, you know, so she can make extra money on the side, she'll DoorDash, right? And when my daughter had went, you know, she got this electric vehicle, and it started interfering with her being able to DoorDash because she always gotta charge the shit. And it's because like my daughter will spend all of her extra time door dashing because she's all about making money. So she goes to her regular job and then she'll go out and do that. And she was complaining to me about this EV. And so, like I said, I think that the legislation that came from Biden, it did not take into consideration people's individual circumstances and what they do, like people who use their vehicles for doing some type of work that might require some type of long distance travel or a lot of miles of travel within a day, and how that electric vehicle could actually interfere with their earning potential, right? So I think that was one thing that wasn't considered. And then, like I said, I think the 50% thing was just a little too ambitious for 2030. And so I was pleased to see that rollback. However, this is what I need to double check. And if one of y'all know, y'all can tell me. But I think that there was a time when Donald Trump agreed with that being the case. And if I'm not mistaken, because I think it had something to do with his homeboy Elon Musk. And so this is a I have it's totally fine for people to change position. It's totally fine for people to change their mind. It is the vitriol that this man talks about stuff when he does that makes me like cringe, because I'm like, okay, at one point you were okay with moving forward with that because you had, to me, I looked at it like he had some invested interest in that moving forward, right? But now, for whatever reason, he doesn't have the same invested interest in it, and that is fine. And he thinks that it would be a mistake. And I definitely think, like I said, based on the timetable, that yes, it would be. And I think that some other things need to be taken into consideration when trying to legislate this issue. But why do you have to? It's for him to have to talk about things in such a dogmatic way that he wants support like he never supported it before, and it was nonsensical and it never made sense to him. I think that's the thing I have the issue with. It's like, even when this man does something that I can agree with, it is the way he presents it that makes me say, now why the fuck did you have to do that? Why did you have to go fuck it up and mess it up like that with doing that? It's like you can sometimes get behind some of the things that you can sometimes let me preface this, very rarely, but you can sometimes get behind some of the things that he comes up with, but you cannot get behind the intent of him coming up with it. That ends up being like the problem for me. Like, it's like, okay, I agree with you saying this, but now when you said this, you done took this shit too damn far. And why didn't you leave the intent off of it? Just leave the sauce off of it and let people think you're doing it for whatever reason it is that you're doing it. Don't confirm for them that you're being racist, bigoted, or biased um, in your action and in your intention. He confirms that when he does that. And like I said, it's even when things you can get behind him with that he comes up with. But I actually, like I said, that was one thing from the State of the Union that I actually agree with. I don't agree with him 100%, but I definitely agree to a halt on it for whatever reason it is for. And I just would like for him to be honest about what he initially thought about that, and then what made him change his mind, because then that would really help other people understand and actually have more understanding of why it would make sense to halt on that and not move so fast forward with that. Um, and it would be something, like I said, that would have been a win for Tommy. That he could probably get a lot of people that, even if they didn't agree, he could probably change a lot of people's mind if it was presented right. But he just presents everything so fucked up and wrong. I don't know. I just that's the part that get me. But that's what one of the things that like I said, I do agree. I agree with him halting that for the moment. I think, like I said, to me, that was the best thing that came out of the State of the Union. Because a lot of that other shit wasn't nothing but a whole bunch of bullshit and more bullshit and more bullshit. And on that note, I love you guys. Y'all have a great evening. I'm going to try to come back and talk to you guys once I'm able to really pay more attention to all of the details and points and able to do some additional looking into and research of what was said at the State of the Union. I'll come back and talk to you guys and see what you guys think. Peace.